Yes. Welcome, come well to another episode, another portal, another doorway entitled "Am I as I am, as you are?" Today's topic of today's show is entitled "Life is the Only Mythology." Life is the only mythology. So all y'all out there that like mythology and get into mythology to understand the depths, the deepest understandings of what mythology really is and what it's really based on, it's just based on life. I know you're probably saying, well, what do you mean by that? Yeah, we know it's a part of life, but what do you mean that mythology is just life? It's literally life, or that coming into life, the life form, the living thing, the living being. And if you think, because some people think that mythology is just like make believe stories, uh, you know, some kind of folklore, like it's like it wasn't real, the land of make believe, it's fake. It's not based upon real stories and actual things. Um, that's where you're wrong at. If you think it was based upon creatures and beasts and faraway lands and the heavens and the hells of this reality, um, then you're far off to the left because it ain't about that either. Mythology is based on straight life, how the life forms the living being, which is in a way connected to the birth or the birthing process, which has to deal or is in related dealings with what we know as the mother or mother. So in a way you can say what I was gonna title this video before, I was gonna call it Mythology is Mother-ology. To understand the mythos is to understand the process, fermentation, and fertilization that happens within the mother. When you understand that, then you see that what is known as myth, which is the ancient word for myth is mutu. The mutu or the myth is actually based on the mother. It's based on the fertilization process, trimester, which you know as gastrulation, the gamete, the zygote, the embryo. This is what the myth is based upon. And these are why it's called tails. If you know anything about a sperm or spermatozoa, it has a tail at the end, a head in the front, and a tail at the end. This is why myths are composed of a tail. I'm gonna go more in depth into it. I'm gonna give a quick synopsis of what it is. And like I say, if y'all want to learn more about it, schedule a Zoom session, consultation, and we can go further into depth with this. People have been getting in touch with me. Once again, I appreciate and thank all my subconscious scribers, those who are diving and dwelling in their subconscious uh, depths of mind and expanding this universe as well as this bioverse and this innerverse. You expand the bioverse, uh, the deeper you dive into the nothingness, into the blackness, the cosmic matter, the dark matter. Um, the more you go into your state of nothing, your state of zero, to remain at a long duration in the realm of the neither world, neither here nor there. You just are. As that begins to happen, this dimensional reality begins to, the material which holds this dimensional, present day dimensional physical reality begins to immaterialize. It begins to dematerialize. It loses its material. The more that loses its material, the more you lose your material, but you rewind back to your primeval state of being. This is even where the word evil comes from. Evil is nothing wrong or bad or negative. Evil is primeval. I don't want to get too off with it. I want to get into the points so you can understand why I'm saying what the hell it is that I'm saying. Okay, so let's just dive right into it. Also want to thank y'all as well for reaching out for the classes, courses, and semesters I'll be holding this solar cycle 2025. People have been scheduling, booking classes, sessions, and consultations. And as y'all see, during the consultations and sessions, I dive so much deeper into each subject or whatever catches your interest and holds your attention on these videos. It's very vast because with the interaction and the questions, it opens up deeper doorways in my minds of memory, not just brain memory, but also cosmic memory, which is when I begin to channel things in the moment. A lot of these videos, including this one, comes from channels in the moment where I just get something. And I feel like it just has to be shared. I can't explain why. I can't. I just know when I feel that it just needs to be shared at this specific time and moment for whatever reason, unbeknownst to me. Okay. So today's title once again is Life is the Only Mythology. Okay, let's get into it a little. The definition of the word myth, is a natural phenomenon. This is the definition of the word myth. It means a natural phenomenon. So anything you read that's supernatural in these myths, the definition of the very word myth means a natural phenomenon. So it's something that naturally occurs. It's a natural happening. It's a natural phenomenon. Just a definition of the word myth before I'm going to touch upon 7 to 8 points, and that's about it. You want to get more in depth with this, like I said, reach out. Most importantly, reach in, and we connect, and we'll make that happen. But it gets pretty juicy and pretty interesting. Definition of the word myth is a natural phenomenon, as well as it also means origin. Definition of the word myth means origin. It means a natural phenomenon, and it means origin, as well as supernatural beings and events. It comes from the Greek word mythos or mythios. And for those people who think that mythology is like, oh, it's not nothing real, it's fake, it's just, people telling tales and stories of, supernatural or, beings that never existed or, things that never existed. Like I said, you couldn't be more wrong. I'm not gonna go as far as to say beings. Let's just say things of things that existed, because these things existed, and guess what? They exist every day. Every day they exist. I'm going to explain why. This is why life is the only mythology. And if you think that mythology isn't important or relevant to some degree, explain why you can get a master's degree in mythology in many universities, many colleges. You can get master's degrees under mythology and folklore. Explain that if mythology isn't something important or some type of significance or importance to some degree in life. How is it that you can get a master's degree in mythology? It's the ancient knowings. Mythology, when you look at it now based upon language arts and from a metaphysical eye and occult understanding, mythology is also monthology, which is the study of the months. But what are the months? Mythology is also moonology. So mythology is monthology. Mythology is also moonology, or basically the study of cycles, the study of moon cycles. This is what mythology is. Mythology is monthology, is moonology, the study of cycles. This is why I said mythology is mother-ology. Because mythology is monthology, moonology, the study of cycles, the moon cycles, which is the woman's cycles, which is the birth cycle or pregnancy. This is what mythology is based on. This is why behind every old mythology, the oldest mythology, Epic of Gilgamesh, you got the Typhons, you got the Ophites, you got the Draconians or the Draco. All these oldest mythologies always have the significance of this great mother. Why is it that all our oldest mythologies, our most antiquitous tales of folklore and mythology carry the significance of this great mother? The oldest mythologies doesn't have anything based upon a great father. It has things based upon this great mother. Follow where I'm going with this. Mythology is motherology. It's also monthology. It's also moonology. It's the study of the moon cycle, the study of the woman's cycle, the study of birth, the study of pregnancy. Before I go on, let me keep going. Mythology is also monolithology. Mono is one. Monolith, one thing. Monolithology, meaning the study of one. Mythology is also methodology, referring to the alchemical formula of a specific genetic method that we call the child. I hope you follow and you see where I'm going with this. But keep your common sense present. Follow the common thread, because it's about to go through all the different color beads to connect and make that one chain. Okay? Follow. So the definition of the word myth we know is a natural phenomenon. It means origin, supernatural beings, supernatural power, supernatural capabilities, just like we have. Okay? So let's keep going. That was first doorway. The second doorway is, once again, as I mentioned before, mythology is mother-ology, and mother-ology is mathology. The mother was the one who not only contained the myth, but she also told the myth. And she also contained the math. When you're looking at spermatozoa being ejaculated inside the womb, making its way through the uterus and so on and so forth, to get to the egg, to wiggle to the egg, you're going through the fertilization process. It's going inside of the egg, it's wiggling, it's dividing the egg, which is division. We're going to call the math now. Division. Or the addition is the sperm to the egg. So that's addition. Now let's go to division. Division is when the sperm goes in the egg and divides the egg, that little part in there before it gets in and the egg closes up. Right? Subtraction. The subtracting aspect is the sperm now subtracting its old shell, going into the new one, forming into something different, the process of transformation and conversion. That is the subtraction. And then you have multiplication, which is what you know as mitosis, which is cell division. One cell becomes two, two become four become eight becomes 16, 16 becomes 32, 32 becomes 64, and so on and so forth, and so on and so on and so on. That's the multiplication, that's the multiplying aspect. So the mythology is the motherology is the mathology, because she is the container where the math is contained. So where I'm going with this to understand what is known as myth out there, there's nothing mythological out there. The math, the myth is all within the mother. So what is this myth? What is it talking about? It's talking about the development of you, the development of me. Follow the video so I go along. Okay, so mythology is motherology, and motherology is mathology. She contains the math, addition, division, subtraction, multiplication. All these things happen within her body, which is why every mythology, once again, the oldest mythologies, the Typhonians, the Ophidians, the Draconians, Epic of Gilgamesh, all these different things, these oldest mythologies always have this great mother in the background. Why is this great mother always present? Why they keep signifying this great mother? You also have the Enuma Elish, another very old tale that deals with the great flood, which is the water breaking, which is you coming into life. All these big stories, all these macrocosmic describings are actually microcosmic happenings. So this is why I say don't fall for the creature or the beast or the people that they're saying in these stories. That's literal. We were hyperbole people. We were hyperbolic people, which means that we exaggerated something. We made exaggerated stories to describe something which is actually very simple, biological and anatomical. We made it a major thing. We put it in characters and people and gave them an image. You know, in other words, we were describing the microcosmic reality as a uh, macrocosmic uh, as macrocosmic events and people. Just like our body Our hands, dendrites and axons. These are the same shapes as dendrites and axons in your body. Your hands and your toes are the same shapes as dendrites and axons in the body. So we see that something in its own natural intelligence makes itself a major thing. It makes itself a major thing. And it's a very small, minute, microscopic thing, but as you can see, even that which is microscopic within our neurons and melanocytes that give off synaptic electrical impulses from one neuron to the next, and it's so micro in us, it shows itself on a macrocosmic scale, which is what we call hands and fingers. So this is why we explained our micro stories as macro events and macro people and macro creatures and beasts. But there's no macro nothing. There's actually just micro and nano and pico and zento and quano cosmic sentient uh, engagements that happens within the anatomy and biology of the human body. And this reference according to the mother and the birthing process or the trimester process. Let me go into it more. The next line and or doorway is all mythological tales are all based on a great mother that gave birth to out of control children that rose up and overtook the parents. Once again, bringing it back to the mother and child, the child and mother, the mythology, the mother-ology. All mythological tales are based on a great mother that gave birth to out of control children that rose up and overtook the parents. Based on goddess mythologies such as Marduk. These are mythologies now based on the mother or the female, the feminine aspect of the mythologies. The oldest mythologies, Marduk, another goddess named Pistis Sophia, the Cybele or Cybele or Magna Mater or the Sibyls. We have the Sibyls. They should know of this knowledge as well. A goddess Rhea, the goddess Venus of Willendorf, the goddess Gaia, Demeter, Freya, Min, Mothra, etc. These are the oldest mythologies. Why is there always this woman or this great mother? You have to ask yourself these things. You have to put that common thread together to make it make common sense, to make it make sense. You have to have common sense to make something make sense. And you're looking for things that connect with other things. That's what common sense is. You can see that there's something over here that's connected to something over here, and you put them together. Whether you understand it or not in that moment, you still put it together. You're like, damn, yeah, the myths always have this mother aspect. There has to be something with the mother or the woman or the feminine. So you have to put myth and mother together. It just makes common sense. You're trying to make sense of this reality. You're trying to make sense of what you're reading, what you're studying, what you're researching, what you're coming across, or why it's coming across you, or what you're reading, or why it's reading you. See, we read books, but also, well, some people read books. I let books read me. I don't live life, I let life live me. When you put yourself as first and foremost, your reality begins to shift. Your perception changes on things. The monolithology, the study of the one, the study of you. But how did this you come into form? Through the birthing process. So you bring it back to the origin of the birthing. All of this is happening inside of her. This whole myth of creatures, beasts, flying through airs, going through heavens and hells and dwellings and all this other stuff, it's all happening inside of her system. This is where the myth is. The myth is the mother. The mother is the myth. The great mother. Okay? All mythological tales are based on a great mother that gave birth to out of control children that rose up and overtook the parents. And this is us, meaning that we became the physical aspect when we weren't at a time physical. We overtook the tails. We were the tails swimming through the egg at one time. We came out and then we made a mess with the knowledge and the gnosis that we were given, that was passed down to us spiritually, cosmically. We made a mess out the shit. That's the out of control children. And children is chi. Chi is energy. See, we were the energy form within her that became the entity form outside of her. It all makes sense, but you have to have common sense to understand what I'm talking about and where I'm coming from, or I seem like a crazy man on the video. But I know what I know. You need to know what you need to know. Okay? Rose up and overtook the parents based on goddess mythologies. The goddess Marduk, the goddess Pistis Sophia, which is of the Gnostics. And then let me just say this. Did you know that the word pregnancy was once known as Gnosi or Nasi, as in Gnostic or Gnosis, was derived from the word nous? Gnosi, which is Gnosci. This was called, this was the origin of the word pregnancy. Nensi was Gnosi. I'm going to go into that word pregnant too as well. Just to keep on connecting the dots, keep on connecting the dots, keep on gathering the beads to connect the one chain, to put that one thread through all the different beads, all the beads to make one chain. Okay? Based on the goddess mythologies is Marduk, Pistis Sophia, which is of the Gnostics. There's no coincidence. There's a connection. There's an alignment. Sybil or Magna Mater, the goddess Rhea, the goddess Venus of Willendorf, the goddess Gaia, the goddess Demeter, the goddess Freya, the goddess Min, the goddess Mothra. Okay, and even what we know as Ra and Osiris, even the male gods were once worshipped as female gods before it became masculinized. That's why you have Osiris in the Holy Umbilical, which is what you call the Bible, but I call it the Holy Umbilical. Inside of that book, Osiris is known as Wasir, Wosir. Wa or Wo is woman. Why was Osiris known as Wasir? There's the woman aspect again. So even what we know as a lot of our male deities and male gods, they derived from a female or feminine origin. Nothing's by coincidence, accident, or mistake. Everything is by divine design and cosmic alignment. Everything's perfect within its own imperfection. Okay? Just to give a little fun fact and stuff, you know. Now, dealing with the, before I go there, let me see. Trying to go by order a certain way. Okay, next line of doorway is all mythologies are considered primeval and primal. All mythologies are considered primeval and primal. When broken down in language arts, primal means pre-male or pre-man. What is pre-man? Meaning before the male. What was before the male? The female. So that which is primal is pre-male or pre-masculine, which means the female. Primal, pre-male, female. And mythologies, all mythologies are primal, primeval, primeval, prime female. The prime female or primal, which is pre-male, which is the female. Like I said, I only touch upon certain points in my videos. I have a lot of fun going in depth with y'all when we schedule these consultations and sessions. As y'all can see, uh, we have a lot of fun in these discussions because I come with a lot of images. And like I said, it's just I go into more histories as well and the chronologies of things. Well, my videos, I just give you guys a straight shortcut to grandma's house. Some nice quick synopsises to make the common connections. So when you make the common connections and we go into our sessions and our consultations, you come with what you've taken notes of, what you've written down, what you found an affinity to, what you found interested, what held your attention. And we take these into these sessions. And this is why you come out these sessions and these consultations feeling a sense of completedness. This is the reason why. Okay, I give crumbs during my videos, but during the sessions and consultations, we make at least a half a cake. And the classes which are coming up in 2025, which y'all signed up for, that's when we bake the whole cake. Okay. Next line in doorway is we're going into now the pregnation process, or her becoming pregnant, or how the pregnation process happens. Okay. I'm gonna go back into a little primeval explainings, which is what you may call history or ancestry or something like that. I'm gonna give you just a quick synopsis of antiquitous times and what happened, like the very origin of what we know as pregnant or pregnancy, how these things came into being, how this happened. Okay, this is basically talking about the pregnation process. We were once transparent asexual beings. Asexual, which means that we weren't a sex. There was no male, there was no female. At one time in antiquitous times, we were once transparent asexual beings first. Well, how do we know this? You can even look at the spermatozoa or the sperm. Look at what a sperm looks like. It's clear. That alone tells you a certain kind of intelligence of our antiquitous embodiments before we became embodied. It's clear, it's a clear gel, it's a clear plasma with this light glowing at the tip of it. That also tells you something. Transparency, light, clear, translucence, essence, luminescence. Because it's the thing, the very first thing that begins to create life. So we were once transparent asexual beings first. Evidence is the sperm bodies, the spermatozoa, because all of it is clear. When the first asexiants became contained with life within their embodiments, since all bodies were transparent, we were able to visually see all the developmental stages of the trimester intelligence. Okay, from gamete to zygote to embryo. And what we witnessed during this cosmic process was serpent-like archetypes. This is why mythologies, all old ancient mythologies, deal with this serpent, this old serpent, old serpent, the serpent age, or the serpent creature, or the serpent beast. When you look back at the Ophidian, Draconian, Typhonian, uh, the oldest tales in mythology. There's always this serpent, this snake, and as you see later on, as times developed, it went from this serpent to this snake to this reptile to this lizard, and end being this dragon. This is where you get the Drago or the Draconian, or the Dracon is the dragon, the dragon, Draconian, Dragonian, dragon. Um, so it went from serpent to snake to reptile to lizard to dragon. These are the oldest mythologies of these creatures or these beasts or these supernatural like beings. Why do we describe these things as serpents, snakes, reptiles, lizards, dragons? Why were we describing these things as these things in these forms? When you look at the fertilization process and what is known as the gastrulation process, dealing with embryogenesis inside of the mother when she's pregnant, we go through these different forms. We go from something looking like a fish, to a toad, to all different kind of animals, amphibians, creatures, crawlers, swimmers, walkers, flyers. We go through all these different processes inside of the mother's body. So this is where you get the serpent-like looking creature. This is where you get the snake-looking like creature. This is where you get the reptile looking like creature, the lizard looking like creature, the dragon looking like creature inside of the mother while the baby is developing, while you are developing, while I am developing. We were able to see inside and see through the asexient being, the asexual being, because we were clear, transparent, and translucent. We were see-through, actually see-through, literally see-through. So we were able to see the process happening inside of the entity's body. This is how we were able to describe these things which became known later on as a serpent, snake, and lizard, and so on and so forth. But this wiggling effect all came from the movement of the spermatozoa. Now, we're talking about the time you have different times of when we went from a transparent, from an energy form, an orbit, a quantum presence, an orbit, a clear body, and then a colored body. And these periods are basically, you got different periods dealing with, you can say, what they call the Polarians. Then you have the Hyperboreans. Then you have the Lemurians. Then you have the Atlanteans. And then you have also what is known as the Aryans. So these different stages, I'm talking about a few millions of years ago. Millions of years ago. Let me never say a few, but millions of years ago, when we came into these bodies, we went through, before we came into a body, and the first body was a clear body, because we were basically essence mimicking essence. Just like if you take a picture of an orb, a lighting orb that's floating in the air, and then you look at your phone and you open that picture up and make it wide, you see it has a certain kind of body to it. But when you took a picture of it, it was just a floating light, a floating dot, a light dot just floating in the air. When you took a picture of it and you look at your picture and you click on it, and you zoom and you open it, it looks like a body. It becomes a body. Sometimes it looks like a face. Looks like many different things. You don't never know what's in these light orbs. It's the same thing with us. So, and also too, keep in mind, and design as well, keep in mind keep in mind that we are composed mostly of electronic intelligence, which is electrons, which is the see-through intelligence, the clear intelligence, the one that isn't connected to things, but all together, bounded together, looks like a collected body, a connected body. But it's actually just things that's just around itself, around each other, that makes us look like we're here in the present moment. Like I'm here talking to you and I'm in the body and you're on the other side watching the video. But we're not really here. We're never local. We're not local things. Okay, I don't want to get too far off into it. But let me just make the point. When the first asexient, because you went from asexual to an asexiant, when the first asexients became contained with life within their embodiment, and there's a process how that happens. If you want to understand that, I'll go deeper into that in a session or consultation. But let me just explain what I'm saying. When the first asexiant became contained with life within their embodiment, since all bodies were transparent, we were able to visually see all the developmental stages of the trimester, from gamete to zygote to embryo. We were able to see it happening within the body with our eyes, with our one eye. And what we witnessed during this cosmic process was serpent-like archetypes. The word pregnant also actually means pre-serpent. Did you know that? The word pregnant means pre-serpent. Anytime you see pre, you move the P-R-E away from the other letters. So you have pregnant, which is actually pre-nant. Now, what is this nant word? G-N-A-N-T, which is, yes, it's connected to the word Gnostic and Gnosis, which is the Nasi or the Nasi, the pregnancy, the pregnancy, the pre-nancy, or pre-nosi. But pregnant or pre-nant, the word nant, we know what the word pre means, before. Nant, G-N-A-N-T, it means serpent one gene, or the genetics of the first serpent. For all y'all that have been pregnant out there, do you know that the word pregnant means the genetics of the first serpent? All mythologies, the oldest mythologies, in between the Hyperboreans or the Hyperboreans and the Lemurians. This was when the crossover from coming into a body, from coming into a transparent body into a physical body. During this process, millions of years ago, the serpent-like figure, it was seen inside of the asexian body or the asexian embodiment. We were able to see the thing wiggling. And later on down the line, now we know it as a serpent, or we call it a serpent, or call it a serpent. Why do you think the S itself that says the word serpent looks like a snake? It's everything is tied. Okay? The oldest mythologies deal with the serpent. Why is the word pregnant means the first serpent, or the first gene of a serpent, or the serpentine gene, or the genetics of the first serpent? Remember, nothing is by accident, coincidence, or mistake. Everything is aligned perfectly within divine design. Okay? The next line in the doorway is, as time and experience passed. This is even going more into what I'm talking about with the asexian or the asexual being that we once were. As time and experience passed, I guess you can say from the Hyperborean going into the Lemurians. Once again, I'm going to give you the 5. When we made a presence here in this reality, the first is the What the hell was the first? I'm gonna get back to that. But you got the Hyperborean, the Lemurian, the Atlantean, and then the um that's right. The first one was the Polarian, the second one was the Hyperborean, the third one was the Lemurian, the fourth one was the Atlantean, and the fifth one is the Aryan. So these are the five different uh types that we went through, different embodied archetypes that we went through. Now, in between the Polarian, the Hyperborean, between the Hyperborean and the Lemurian, this is when we went from transparency into physicality. Even the transparency was a certain kind of physical kind of presence, but it was more of a membrane or membraic. We went into a more solid and color form when we went from Hyperborean to Lemurian. Okay, so in between this Hyperborean and Lemurian, this is what I'm about to explain. As time and experience passed, the impregnated asexual being began to feel the actual embryo developing simultaneously. began or began to feel the actual embryo developing inside of itself. I can't say her just yet, but itself, it began to feel this thing. It began to make a feeling or have a feeling for it. It began to feel it. Feeling was our first falling. Feeling is what feeling is the anchor in between the Hyperborean body that we were and the Lemurian body. Feeling is the thing that was in between. Okay? That's how we went from Hyperboreans to Lemurians. The feeling that the asexian or the asexual being began to feel, the embryo inside of it, we began falling. Okay? Well, we went from transparent to a colored body to the dark, the black body. Um, as time and experience passed, the impregnated asexual being began to feel the actual embryo developing. Now, simultaneously, as it felt, a split became, a split became, a split became, and sexes occurred. So, when this asexual being began to feel the embryo inside of it, it created a feeling. This feeling became that connection. You see, you connecting the dots, and I guess is what you may call, love, affection, care, whatever may, so on and so forth, of the asexiant to the sexient creating inside of it, which we know now as mother and child, are going through motherhood in the trimester stages. A split became, and sexes occurred, meaning the feel transformed the being into what we now know as female. If you look at the word feel, it's the same word as female, female. When it began to feel, that's when it became a female. And that's when the falling began. The split between the sexes came because it began to feel. That's when the intelligence or the being became a female and the asexuals became actual two sexes. Okay? The field transformed the being into what we now know as female. That's why during embryogenesis or gestation, the embryo during its beginnings, gamete stages of development, it goes from eunuch to yoni to phallus as the last determining outcome of the sex of the child. So the first sex that we know in this reality is female. It's not male. It's female. The feeling, when it began to feel, it transformed into female. You see, this is why they say God is a woman, God is this. I'm not going to get into that. It's a it's an asexual intelligence. Source is an asexual thing. But after the asexual, the first body it took on was the female. From the female, then came the male. And this is why I said the process of embryogenesis, any baby being formed, anyone and everyone, you were all female first, which is the split. This is why we go from eunuch to yoni to phallus. Eunuch, the smooth, there's nothing there, it's just smooth when we are going through the embryogenesis or after the gastrulation process, during the process of gestation and embryogenesis, as we are forming, we were eunuch, it was smooth there, and then there became a slit. And from the slit, uh, whether the testicles descended or not will determine whether that slit will turn into a phallus, which is the boy. So we all were female first when it comes into the body, when the falling comes. And we become this first body. The first body is the female body. This is why, once again, I told you our skin is of her endometrium, which is the inner uterine walls of the mother as the protective aspect. So she gives us her skin. He doesn't sacrifice for nothing. I'm not going to get into this name. She sacrifices. She gives us her skin, her inner skin, to be protected on the outside reality. The first body was female. This is in genetics. It's in mythology. It's in folklore. It's in the oldest tales ever. And it just became female because the asexual or the asexian intelligent began to feel. And that slit had to be there to let us out. This is why a lot of sacred priesthoods were priestess, which is who you know as the Sibyls, which is why you have the goddess Cybele or Magameda, the oldest mythologies, the great mother. Okay, I'm trying to make this make sense to you. Just in case you become more interested, I can go a lot more in depth with this during the sessional consultation. Okay. So we go from eunuch to yoni to phallus. If the testicles do not descend down, then you come out a girl, or you come out female. If the testicles descend and come down, then you come out a boy or you come out a male. But male, boy, man is the end product, the end result. Female is the first. And then asexual or the eunuch is the primary one. See, life or living or existence always gives you the answers. It always gives you the truth. You just got to know where to look. You got to understand what this thing's about. It's always constantly showing you what it is every day, every moment. There's nothing hidden from you. All secrets secrete. And I always tell you that there's no such thing as a secret. Because if you just put a letter E at the end of the word secret, you get the word secrete. So all secrets secrete. You got to find out where it's secreting from. Look for the ooze. You'll find your truth. Where is the ooze? The more the female sex felt the creation creating inside of itself, or the more the female sex felt the creation creating itself inside of it, the more the female bonded with it, thus creating an inevitable attachment and connection with it. As this connection feeling process was happening, the body of the female began converting from transparent to a subcaseous solid or dermal, meaning the body went from see-through to non-see-through. This is what happened between the Hyperborean and the Lemurians. Because we can't talk about the first one, which is the uh, Polarians, because we were just one polarity. That's what Polarian is. Polarian is just polarity. We were a polarity. We were the unified Polarian. There was no polarities. There was no right or wrong, good or bad in the physical form just yet. Not saying that the potential wasn't in existence, but there was no physical evidence until between the Hyperborean and the Lemurian, which are known as root races. These are the 5 root races, or the 5 root beginnings, the 5 rooted beings, or coming into being. Okay, hold on, give me 1 second. Get a little more in depth. Right. Commercial break is over. Back to the lesson. Okay. Oh, before I go into it, let me just, always share some kind of books with y'all again. This is another book as well called The Atlantis and Lemurians by Rudolf Steiner. Very, very interesting book, as well as the other book I told you called Cosmic Memory. These things give a little more in depth and insight into what I'm talking about. And I have about maybe 10 other books, maybe 11 other books that go more in depth into it as well. But these are 2 very important ones: Cosmic Memory, Rudolf Steiner, and Atlantis and Lemurians by Rudolf Steiner. Deals with the whole thing that I'm touching upon today in a certain way, but there's other books that touch upon it just as deep that I have in my library right here. Okay, let me get back into the lesson. Okay, as the female, yeah, the more the female sex, when it became a female, when it began to feel and it fell, when it began to feel, it began to fall and we fell. The first falling, when we fell, we were female. Okay? The male, from that point forward, the more the female sex felt the creation creating itself inside of itself, the more the female began bonding with it. It bonded with it. It bonded with this thing inside of it. Remember, don't lose sight. I'm talking about mythology. This is our mythology. This is what all mythologies are based on. us developing inside of the mother. Mythology is motherology. The more began bonding with it, thus creating an inevitable attachment and connection with it. As this connection feeling process was happening, the body of the female began converting from transparent to a subcaseous solid or derma, meaning the body went from see-through to non-see-through. But why? As a survival method to protect the creation inside. This is where you get the black ones, the blackened ones, the dark ones, the cosmic ones. All of this was black. We were all black. Black means we were all cosmic material. We were all cosmic fabric, cosmic matter. So we use the cosmic matter from the universe and put it on our bodies to protect that which was developing inside of us. This is why the mother is the first protector. She is so protected over her child, overly protective. See, so even while a little sister who's older than her brother is very protective over her brother, over her little brother. I have an older sister. I'm bigger than her. She's smaller than me, but I have an older sister. She can be very over. She's always been very overprotective of me. This is a female trait. This is a feminine trait, a woman's trait, and this is uh dealing with her own biology, her own anatomy, her own cosmic memory, her own mitochondria, her own midichlorian intelligence. She is the protector. Man is the second protector. If you want to be literal, if you want to be technical, man is the outside protector, woman is the inside protector that gives the outside being her inside protective shell, which is what we call the skin. And the man, which is the outside protector, provides the inside protection of the being, which is his mind. My father created my mind. You see, there's a nature, there's a complementary nature, and there's positions. We play our positions without judgment. There's a biological position, anatomical positions, cosmic positions, divine positions. Everything has its own position. So a subcaseous solid or dermal means the body went from see through, okay. As a shield to protect, so as a survival method to protect the creation inside, um, yeah, that's what it did. We went from see through to non see through because the mother wanted, or the asexuant, which became a female eventually, became a certain color or shade to protect the thing developing inside of its body. And this is where you get the word. That's why the word she, which is female, she is inside of the word shield. Shield. When she's shielding, when it became a she, and then she began to shield. The shield is the color, the shield or the shell. So you have the word she inside the word shield because she's shielding the embryo developing. And then the shielding became a shell. So your shell derived from a shielding from the she intelligence. And I think one of the most ancient names for God is she. Now you have Shiva. Okay. Once again, like I said, that's why the mother as well, while the baby quiets down, and when we're crying, when we're baby, she just says shh. She rocks us. Why does shh calm us down? She, the shelled one. From this three layers of skin called the epidermis, the dermis, and the subcaseous, because you have the epidermis, which is the top, the dermis, which is the underneath, and the subcaseous, which is the third layer. The subcaseous was the first shielding of the embryo, because it's in reverse. From outer to inner is the epidermis, dermis, and the subcaseous. From the inner is the subcaseous, dermis, and the epidermis. So the first shield was the subcaseous layer. The second shield was the dermis layer, and the third shield was the epidermal layer. The shields of She. Okay, the shells of She. From this, the three layers of skin formed as extra protection barriers for the growing one. So these extra skin layers form for extra protective barriers of the growing one, which is me, which is you, which is us. The last protective barrier was the endometrium lining. She gave us her skin as our outer coated protection when we eject from her into the material realm. This is the endometrium, okay? The inner uterine walls. She sacrificed for us. Not no man. That's not how it goes. A woman sacrificed for her child, for us. That's why she's the first protector, being the inner protector. He's the second protector. I am the second protector. I protect it when it comes out. See, it's reverse roles. My spermatozoa has to go in. My in, when in her inner protected the outer of the inner, and when it came out, I protect the outer or the inner out. See, it's like I said, there's cosmic roles and there's divine positions. Okay, we must not cross these lines. Next line of doorway is, now you're dealing with just the I was talking about before with the oldest mythologies, dealing with the Typhonians, the Ophidians, Draconians. The Typhon, this is a little background behind the Typhon, the mythology of Typhon. Typhon is the youngest child of Gaia, or the youngest child of Earth or Orbit, and Tartarus, which is the underworld. So Typhon is the youngest child of Gaia or Earth, and the youngest child of Gaia and Tartarus. Gaia is the Earth, Tartarus is the underworld, which is the underbelly. When I said Earth, Earth, you scramble the letters around, you get the word hearts. The underworld is the underbelly. Once again, bringing it back into the mother, bringing it back into the human body, into the biology, into the anatomy of the human body. Even dealing with Typhons or Typhonian, the mythology of Typhon. He was the youngest child, the youngest chi, the youngest energy, the oldest energy, the primal energy, the original energy of the heart and the underbelly, which is Gaia or Earth and the underworld. The mythology of, I won't go too crazy into it, and you have Ophite and Draco. So Typhon, Ophite, Draco, or Typhonian, Ophidian, Draconian. These are all three types, meaning they all mean serpent, snake, reptile, lizard, dragon. Which is once again the different formations or the different the different forms and metamorphoses that we go through during the gastrulation process of embryogenesis within the mother. All those little forms that you see of lizards or fish or toads or reptiles and all these things that we go through, these metamorphoses, these uh, atomic genetic metamorphoses that we go through within the mother is known as gastrulation. That's the gastrulation process, the graduation process of the gastrulation process, or gastrulation graduation, before we become the zygote and the embryo. Okay. The three oldest mythologies in existence, and they're all about serpentarianism. From the ooze came the slither, from the slither came the crawler, from the crawler came the prouncer, from the prouncer came the walker, and from the walker came the flyer. Serpent, snake, reptile, lizard, dragon. Slither, crawler, prouncer, walker, flyer. Okay. And the last doorway, I think that was the last doorway. So that's the point being made, to understand that what we know as mythology is actually mother-ology. There's no beasts, no creatures flying around in the air out there. All these tales that you hear, these serpents, these reptiles. Remember, we have a reptilian brain. There's no reptiles out there. There's no reptiles in ancient time. They're talking about the anatomy and the biology of the human body when it turned into a physical body, when it turned into a seeing body from the see-through intelligence, from the see-through to the seeing. The reptiles, no reptiles, the reptilian brain, which is why we go through reptilian metamorphosis inside of embryogenesis. Any mythology is based upon mother-ology. When you study the mother, then you know the myth. You understand? Mythology, monthology, moonology, motherology, mathology, the methodology, which is the divine formula, the divine elixir, the embryo, me, you. Am I as I am, as you are? I'll see y'all next time. Until then, keep studying, keep researching. I'll see y'all in the sessions and consultations. Most importantly, the classes. 1, 0.